Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful morning this morning. Got to go out and get these plants wet. So let's talk a little bit about Chris Eubank versus Matt Korobov. Before that, let me reply to 68. This is very going to be short and sweet. First of all, thank you for being the subject of making me the subject of your videos and dedicating all that time to making videos about me because I don't do that. I don't spend that energy and time. They look beautiful, by the way. Now, first and foremost, you're a hater. You definitely are a hater of Errol Spence, Wilder, and Canelo. And you even did it in videos. You constantly clown them. You constantly do what we call it, ad hominems on them. So you don't like them. All right? It is what it is. Now you decided I'm the only person saying that I don't like Canelo. And quite frankly, I'm the only person, I'm saying that you only hate on Canelo. But I said you hate on Canelo, you hate on Errol Spence, and you hate on Deontay Wilder. That's what I do. I just dissed you. Now, quite frankly, if you hate on them, you hate on them. But don't mask like you don't hate on them. Now you're talking about you don't have a problem with these channels. You watch these channels. I watch the channels. All right. Obviously, you follow me. Apparently, you watch my videos a lot more than you let it on. Okay. Why would you watch videos with a guy that sits on his mama's couch and looks ugly? Apparently, because straight up, you actually watch my videos and enjoy them. I'm gonna bring some points that are really important, and I'll go to Chris Eubank and so on. You are not much of a topic for me, so because all that at home and them don't mean shit to me. Like I said before, I don't give a flying fuck what you say about me as a person because you don't know me, so you can't really assess me. You think you can, but you can't. So let's go to it. The other channels that you claim I watch at and I fuck with. Well, I fuck with your channel. I don't agree with everything you're saying, and you're straight up hating. DT3, the Boom Man, constantly says, "Y'all think I'm hating on Deontay Wilder?" And I say, "Yes, you do," because he says Deontay Wilder, for example, he gives this thing that Wilder, he doesn't, um, he can't box. Now that's stupid. Of course, Wilder can box. Okay, but he says Wilder can't box. So, I mean, he does straight up hate on Wilder, and that's what it is, right? But I mess with that channel. I mess with D-Tree, the Boom Man. And yes, I think Canelo is pound for pound number one, so I will agree with him. Duh. If you think he's pound for pound number three or pound for pound number two, I don't agree with it. Doesn't necessarily mean you're straight up hating unless, like Marquez and like Eric Morales, which you also join in, you straight up hating. And how do I know that? Because they did some of the very same things they accused Canelo of doing, all right? And they're just ignoring that as if they didn't do that, all right, in the magnitude that they did it. And just looking at Canelo and what he's doing, they know very well that they did what Canelo did, but they just straight up hating, right? You also straight up hated on Canelo, but not just him. You literally in a video straight up hated on Errol Spence, and then you gave your reasonings. Because see, the thing with you guys that hate on fighters is first you hate on them, and then you try to find a reason to say that you hate on them, and I'm gonna expose it. So you said that Errol Spence, when you heard the rumor that he was on DUI, that he was a guy that used to be drinking as a drunk. You didn't make much of it. You didn't agree with it until you found out that he literally was a guy who drank too much and got in an accident. And you said that was the reason, but it can't be because you was clowning Errol Spence way before that, and you said in a video before that Errol Spence was talking about different sides of the boxing aisle and stuff like that, and you felt like Errol Spence was ducking Terrence Crawford. And I at the time was saying Terrence Crawford too small for Errol Spence, one, and two, that Errol Spence wasn't ducking Terrence Crawford, but that Terrence Crawford would get beat by Errol Spence. Right? This is what I was saying. Okay? I've since changed it, and I said, you know what? I don't know if he will beat Errol Spence now because Terrence Crawford's big. Right? I also said that Terrence Crawford is overhyped. Okay? They're overhyping him. They call him pound for pound number one. He hadn't done nothing. since 2017. Right? How could you do that? And I went through his resume and stuff. Again, I was arguing from a boxing perspective. Okay? You can go into ad hominem and all of that stuff. I'm not necessarily going to engage you because that's way too petty. Like you said in one of the videos, you're being petty. So I don't need to respond to that. But you, on the other hand, start personalizing these guys. You start clowning them based on, their lifestyle, what they saying. Like what Wilder said about Anthony Joshua. What that had to do with anything. I like Sergey Kovalev. He called Adonis Stevenson a monkey. He was sending racist vibes. He's a racist, as far as I'm concerned. But at the same time, okay, I like how he boxes. I like how he fights. Now, here's the big one. Floyd Mayweather. You love Floyd Mayweather as a boxer. Somehow, your mind is able to separate Floyd, his boxing, from what he does outside the ring. But you can't do that for Errol Spence. But you can't do that for Deontay Wilder. But you can't do that for Canelo. Canelo's a cheat. He's this, he's that, he's this. But it's boxing. But you forgot about that? Focus on the boxing. Lomachenko, you focus on Lomachenko's boxing. You are a fan of Lomachenko. But you don't want to say it too loud because you say the racist Lomachenko fans. But you're a fan of Lomachenko. And you know this. Right? Now, Lomachenko just ducked Devin Haney. But what do? You try to defend that shit. You're trying to defend that he's ducking Devin Haney. He requests the fucking franchise belt so that he wouldn't face Devin Haney. That Devin Haney wouldn't be his mandatory. So I said, I believe Devin Haney could beat Lomachenko. I never talked about ducking or nothing. I believed he could beat Lomachenko, and I believe Lomachenko's a fighter that is a mid-range fighter. And if you know that he has certain areas of access to get into a boxer, he can beat him. Again, talking purely from a boxing perspective. Don't got time for nothing else, right? Do I hate Lomachenko? No. This has to do with boxing. Like I said, there's a fighter that I really do hate, and that's Gennady Golovkin. Not personally, because I don't know him personally, but the overhype around him has made me resent hearing his name. Even though I admire a lot of attributes about him, I resent hearing his name. It had nothing to do with his personality, whether he's a drunk outside the ring and all that shit. I don't give a fuck about that. I am talking boxing. They overhype Gennady Golovkin as a boxer. Now, you could say they overhyped Deontay Wilder as a boxer, which would be a fair enough assessment. But your resentment for Deontay Wilder is because of something he said about Anthony Joshua. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? You can't separate what the guy says about a fighter from his boxing. But you could do it for Floyd Mayweather. Right? You could do it for Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather being accused of using PEDs, IVs, all kinds of shit around Floyd Mayweather. But you could somehow focus on Floyd and the positive things about him and defend him. Then you call me a coon ass. Now, I never called you a coon ass, but you called me a coon ass. For what? Ninja, you got nothing. You firing blanks nonstop. Enough of you. Chris Eubanks turned facing Matt Korobov. Chris Eubanks versus Matt Korobov is actually a good fight. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking to myself, Matt Korobov is a good fighter, but Chris Eubanks brings a lot of volume. A lot of volume. He's a big dude. He was at super middleweight. He brings a lot of intensity. James DeGale is a hell of a fighter. Chris Eubank was overwhelming him with volume. He wasn't very accurate, but he throws a lot of volume, can take a punch pretty well, and he just keeps coming. And I thought about that, and I was saying to myself, that's a big middleweight. And if he starts coming through, he definitely could dust Matt Korobov, maybe even take him out of the game, knock him out. And that would be a very good statement because Chris Eubank Jr. came to the PBC so that he could face Jamal Charlo. And I think about that long-term game. I can't think one fight before another, but I'm not a fighter, so I don't have to worry. If you look at Chris Eubank Jr., the way how he fights and the volume at which he fights, he will give Jamal Charlo problems. Unless Jamal Charlo can really box in between, make his jab established, and hurt Chris Eubank Jr. in the process of him mounting his onslaught, so you can have some more respect for him. So I thought about that, and I'm saying to myself, yeah, that could be a good fight. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Jamal Charlo. And then I thought about it again. I was thinking, people talking about Chris Eubank Jr. matching up with Canelo, Chris Eubank Jr. matching up with Demetrius Andrade, with Derevyanchenko, with Gennady Golovkin. I thought about it, and I said, these are kind of good matchups. When you think of Billy Joe Saunders versus Chris Eubank Jr., Billy Joe Saunders beat his ass, punching within the spaces as he's fighting. But at the end of the day, after thinking about it some, Chris Eubank Jr. is a good fight for any one of those guys. He may not win, but he doesn't give them problems because of his volume and his size, how big and strong he is. So I'm interested in Chris Eubank Jr. versus Matt Korobov. I think Matt Korobov is a very good fighter. At first, when I heard that, I said Matt Korobov is going to beat Chris Eubank Jr. But when I think about his size, the fact that he could take a punch, the fact that he was fighting above middleweight for a while, the fact that he got a minor title above middleweight, facing James DeGale, and got a win over James DeGale, who was an excellent middleweight. Yeah, he was on the decline and had injuries and stuff, but he still was able to, even though James DeGale was hitting him flush, he still got the nod over James DeGale, even though I thought James DeGale won that fight. So, thinking about Chris Eubank Jr. versus Matt Korobov, it's not a bad fight. And then, obviously, Matt Korobov being a similar opponent to what's his name? To Jamal Charlo, we can look and say, the triangular theory thing. So, after putting it into much thought and consideration, I think that Chris Eubank Jr. is a hell of a fighter. He's a hell of a fighter, but in a different kind of way. He's got that size, he's got that volume, he's got that cardio. He can keep going. And I think that's what makes him a hell of a fighter. His defense is not great. His accuracy is not great. His skills, yeah, they all right. Okay, he ain't no Sean Porter. But he's a hell of a fighter because he can keep that fucking activity and rate going in spite of getting tagged up, missing like crazy. He just keeps the heat on. He keeps throwing and throwing and throwing and throwing. And I think that's the key with Chris Eubank Jr. If you can handle his volume, if you can punch in between his punches, if you can give him something respectable so that he doesn't just walk through you, I think that you can beat him. And he will therefore become a stiff test to any opponent that he has to face. And if he overcomes them, well, then, he takes the title and he takes things from them. But to me, I have to still take a better look at Chris Eubank Jr. I think that he is one of the fighters who actually can put a good fight with anybody, because we're thinking about Matt Korobov and his quality and the level of opposition he's faced, and that he's a titleless contender and all of that, and he gives everybody a tough fight. But when you think about Chris Eubank Jr., would that happen with Chris Eubank Jr. because he throws so much volume, and he may be so much bigger than Matt Korobov that he might be able to absorb some of the punches. Matt Korobov is known for his right hooks, right? Now, if Chris Eubank Jr. can take that right hook, what does Matt Korobov have to offer? Now he has to use footwork. Now he has to use his skills. He's a veteran, of course. He has to use his skills to maneuver around Chris Eubank Jr. So I think that this fight, Matt Korobov, again, Chris Eubank Jr., came into the PBC for the purpose of facing Jamal Charlo. Obviously, Matt Korobov will be a test to see if he can handle Charlo to some degree, because Matt Korobov did great against Jamal Charlo. Some people even argue that Matt Korobov beat Jamal Charlo, right? So if Chris Eubank Jr. can do that, and he can beat Matt Korobov, make a statement with him, then people are going to be convinced that he could beat Jamal Charlo, right? And just imagine if he pulls it off somehow and gets the decision over Jamal Charlo. But I don't think he would get a decision over Jamal Charlo for two reasons. One is that to get a decision over Jamal Charlo, you're going against the establishment. Now, we've seen Jamal Charlo lose to Tony Harrison, and it was because Tony Harrison was outboxing him. In this case, Chris Eubank Jr. will have to outwork Jamal Charlo. will have to pressure Jamal Charlo. Will have to, you know, physically be rough with Jamal Charlo. And then all those things are possible with Chris Eubank Jr. because that's his style of fighting. So he could be the kryptonite to Jamal Charlo if Jamal Charlo doesn't know what he's doing with his footwork, because Jamal Charlo's most effective weapon is his jab. You know, getting the guy on the outside. On the inside, Jamal Charlo is a strong guy, but Chris Eubank Jr. is also a strong guy. So it would be who's the stronger of the two. And if Chris Eubank Jr. can rough up Jamal Charlo on the inside, and Jamal Charlo doesn't adapt his inside game and so on, it could be a problem for Jamal Charlo, and Chris Eubank Jr. could end up winning the fight. He could have Jamal Charlo fighting his fight, this scrappy, sort of rough and rugged fight, versus Jamal Charlo's pinpoint accurate, sort of more finesseful, you know, fighting. We see Jamal Charlo have problems with Adams. Right? Adams kept on getting to the inside. Jamal would tie him up or fight him on the inside, but at the end of the day, it could be the same situation with Chris Eubank Jr., even though I think Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't have that kind of skill, bobbing and weaving and stuff. Which reminds me, when we look at Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, I realized Wilder don't have that bobbing and weaving system. He doesn't bob and weave and none of that, right? So, going back to what we were saying about Chris Eubank Jr. So now looking at that fight, I think that's a pretty good fight. That's a pretty good ass fight to actually have on the PBC for free, and then to get that Jamal Charlo shot. Well, that's a good name for Jamal Charlo to have on his resume if he can win. You know, if he can win, because Chris Eubank Jr. is very intense. He brings that intensity. He brings that volume. So that's a good win if Jamal Charlo can get that win, and that's a credible name. And I think Chris Eubank Jr. would be a good challenge for anybody. Demetrius Andrade, Derevyanchenko should be fun. Seeing how Derevyanchenko handles him, because he's an inside fighter too. But then again, you know, Eubank Jr. He's very, very strong, very, very strong. In the meantime, Jamal Charlo, he's talking about wanting that Canelo fight. I heard Billy Joe Saunders speaking about that Canelo fight as well. And listening to the discussion with DT3, the Boom Man, and the other guy, they were talking about how these guys, because they're WBO champions, and Canelo's a WBO champion, they can become #1 mandatory, I think, for Canelo if they move up in weight. This is what they're saying. I don't know the WBO's rules. But if that's the case and they move up in weight and they face Canelo, that would be a really great matchup, you know, that Billy Joe could have. Of course, Canelo doesn't have to do that. He can vacate the belt and just, you know, go wherever he wants. Maybe 168 face Callum Smith, or face. I was listening to Pound for Pound Boxing Report last night, and they were talking about the possibility of Canelo facing Dimitri Bivol, unifying, and that unification would take precedence over the mandatories. And he didn't even have to face Dimitri Bivol at 175, because Dimitri Bivol even offered to face Canelo at 168. He's been saying it consistently over and over, because Dimitri Bivol is not really a big, obviously we can see that. He's not really a big light heavyweight. Okay, and Canelo's not a big light heavyweight. That would be a good matchup for Canelo. My boy Intangible Boxing thinks a little bit differently, in the sense that he thinks that Canelo would he would be outboxed by Bivol. And the reasoning he gave was, when he looked at Canelo, how he was having difficulty getting to the inside of Kovalev. Kovalev continues to keep a jab in his face. He thinks that with Bivol, he thinks Bivol, you know, places his feet better, jabs better, that Bivol would be able to keep Canelo off of him. I personally think that, I still think Canelo would beat Dimitri Bivol, probably have a slightly different strategy and tactics than he did against Kovalev. And I think that, yes, it's true that boxers who move, and even I do believe DT3, the Boom Man and Company Limited, they talked about this. Boxers that move, they give Canelo more problems. I think we all agree on that. It's not necessarily that he can't handle it, but he gets more problems. So I think that's why Buddy McGirt's strategy of having Kovalev sort of pivot around Canelo all the time was a good one. Which reminds me, I'm going to do a stream of Canelo versus Kovalev. That's will be the next one, to score that fight. So I'm going to score that fight. Unfortunately, again, you can't see the video, But I'm still going to go through it because I said I was going to do that and score some other fights. I'm going to talk to Tommy Temper and Company Limited as well. And we're going to go through it and we're going to score those fights because I think that we can, you guys will see how I score it. Not that it matters, but we're going to go through it and score fights again. Remember, all fights are based on 4 boxing criteria. It's not based on how many punches landed. It's based on boxing criteria. Now, the punch stats, what they do is they allow for the fighters. They allow for the fighters to be able to you be able to track the fighters. You're able to track what the fighters are doing and be able to look in terms of punches landed at how it kind of paints a picture of how the fight was going, right? It doesn't give a full picture, but it sort of helps. So that's why we look at punch stats. It's like a guide. So what I would do is, you know what? I should actually look at Canelo versus Korobov punch stats as well. So I might do that in the next video. And in the next video, like I promised, I'm going to try and get Canelo versus Korobov done. Then we have, what's the other fight I said? Canelo versus Triple G1. To show you guys what I saw with Canelo versus Triple G1. I was just looking at Beeves' video. Woke up to Beeves' breakdown of Canelo versus Korobov. Where he revisits that fight again. All right. And I'll do one as well, revisiting the fight. I don't have a problem going through these different fights. You know, unfortunately, some of these videos I can't actually show you guys so you can see what I'm seeing. You can understand what I'm seeing. You can see the game plan of what these guys are doing, what they didn't do. But we'll go through it anyway. The last video I just did was Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, so you guys can check that out. And we'll go through some other materials that really some other fights, like trying to remember what else you guys had asked me to do. Mayweather, I did Mayweather versus Pacquiao already. So well, whatever when I remember it. So that's what we're going to do, though. We're going to do the Canelo versus Korobov. You guys let me know in the comment section or below this video what are the fights you want me to also do, which are close fights. I can't remember some of them right now, but I do want to do the draw between Triple G and Canelo and score that. And unfortunately, I don't like that you guys just see my face when I'm scoring fights. I want you to actually see the fight and see how I'm breaking it down, how I'm scoring it, right? But we saw that Tyson Fury controlled the tempo and pace of the fight and even walked down Deontay Wilder in the later rounds. Even in the 12th round where he got knocked down, he was walking down Deontay Wilder. So we're going to talk about that in terms of with Canelo versus Triple G. Just because a guy's on the back foot and the other guy's on the front foot, does that mean that the guy on the front foot is willing to fight? There's something called effective aggression. And you're always looking at the flow of the fight. I keep on repeating it over and over. You know what's interesting? A lot of these videos are having an impact on people, I realize, because when I was talking about this, I noticed the Zone, they started commenting on fights and breakdowns of fights. And I saw them saying something along the similar lines of what I was saying concerning who wins the fight. It's not, but then again, it's not me coming from, but it's just a general thing, and I probably am just observing it. But for the case of what Sergio Mora was saying, and the Chris Maddox on the Zone side of things, you can't just be looking at the guy who's popping all these shots. And with Korobov, he was throwing a lot of shots. All right, a lot of shots were hard shots. I'm not gonna lie to you; they were hard shots. But he was also using a lot of probing shots because he couldn't really find where Canelo is. And I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. And I'll try and highlight the similar thing that was happening with Danny Jacobs. They couldn't find Canelo, and so because of that, they had difficulty landing punches on them and putting heat behind their punches. And then you don't want to be throwing too heavy a punch when, one, you don't know where your target is, and two, you know you can get countered. You don't put heat behind your punches unless you're absolutely sure you can't get countered. So you want to get back in a position as quickly as possible. And the best way is not to load up on your punches, which is what Deontay Wilder was doing all night against Tyson Fury. and we're gonna look at the Triple G versus Canelo fight somewhere down the road. But you guys keep on putting in suggestions as what fights you want me to see, you want me to show. Not only what you want me to see, also what do you want me to see? Yeah, what you want me to show, and I will go through them as well with you guys. So that's basically it for now. I think though Chris Eubank Jr. versus Matt Korobov is actually a much more intriguing fight than I thought. I thought Canelo versus Kovalev would have been a fight in which, you know, it would have been a mismatch, one-sided fight. But Kovalev showed me something else, and I still think that Kovalev has a lot in the tank to be able to face all these other fighters. So I'm looking forward to that. Guys, I'm going to be on the next live stream. I see you guys now rolling in. I see you guys now rolling in, but don't worry about nothing. I'm going to be on the next live stream, and I'm going to catch you guys in a minute. Peace.